Well, hello, friends. Thanks for joining us. Great to have you here tonight. And just a little random noodling there. I don't know. It goes all over the place. For those of you who are new and unfamiliar, I do a little noodling before beginning. It's just a way for everybody to kind of come in and get settled. It sends out a notice that we've begun the stream. And it helps clear my mind. It's all just extemporaneous. There's no written music. It's just... That's what I call a rectal extraction. Just comes right out of my butt. But yeah, it helps clear my mind and put me into a sort of a state of mental tabula rasa, if you will. So just kind of an open plane there. Thank you so much for those who sent me emails today. I see some of you in the chat already. Great to have you here. And I see Wayne has said that he will be a little late this evening. I asked him what that meant, and he said a few minutes, and I'm like, is that 5 minutes? Is that 30 minutes? Is that 90 minutes? I don't know. We'll find out. I'm standing by to see if and when he joins up. So be glad to see him when he gets here. And as usual, we do things in such a terribly professional way. So he'll find out what the topic is when he gets here. Because that's how I roll. But again, I just wanted to say thank you to those who sent emails to me today, this morning, on ancient wisdom. Toward the end, I just asked if you had something that you wanted me specifically to to put in the hopper to petition Dad for. I would be happy to do that, and got some great responses. And so we've already begun on that, and hopefully you'll begin to see something soon. So I appreciate that. Just want to say a welcome to everybody who's here, from Natalie and Lynn and Cammie. Can't wait to see you and Winston and Sue Finelli coming up. Hey, let's see. Mr. King, good to see you. My friend Lucas, Trey Clark, hey, welcome. Good to see you. Nemo, my friend, always great to hear your wonderful little reverse podcasts. Those are delightful, and thank you for sending them to me, and keep continuing to remember me. So today, just wanted to address a couple of things. Like I said, we'll wait and see what Wayne brings when he comes, because I'm sure he will have some thoughts on the matter as well. So I had considered, yes, I am thanking you, as a matter of fact, Holly. Absolutely. It is just, I don't know, an act of service and love that I just want to present to you. I want to do something of value. So there you go. Here's what we typically do during Sola Scriptura is, again, if you're new and you don't know, we kind of dive into different places in Scripture. Wayne and I spent the first several episodes looking at, from the very beginning, looking at the book of Genesis, making it kind of through chapters 8 up to the chapter 6 experiment, which is a little weird, the incursion of the Nephilim, as well as the flood, and giving some thoughts on that. Wayne joins every other week, and so I do a 0.5 episode in between. And so what we did last time he was here, which was 2 weeks ago, I took a look at the book of Ecclesiastes. It's a fabulous book. Written again, it's ascribed to Solomon, who was the son of King David. And as we're told, he's one of the wisest people that ever lived. And if all the things that are ascribed to him actually belong to him, I would say yes, he possessed wisdom well beyond most anything I've seen, certainly beyond me, and I gain from it every time I read it. But also, it's interesting that the book of Ecclesiastes indicates that as many folks who are blessed with intellect do, and looking for, you're always curious, and so you're looking to find the ends of everything. And so he tried to find the ends of all things, whether mirth and joy, drunkenness, sexual pleasure, everything, to know madness and folly, as he said. I don't recommend it. And in the end, neither did he, right? But we all kind of come to these conclusions that it is the best that you can do, that all these things happen around you. And it seems at times random and unfair, but at the same time, when you join with a relationship with the Creator, and I'm not just talking a religion where you hold someone apart and over there, and you have these ideas and you try to figure out what God is and make these ideas, but rather a personal, interactive relationship. It's a very different thing. Certainly, there are intellectual pursuits, and I don't think nothing that I've seen in my reading or in my personal interaction with the Creator, would indicate to me that Dad has anything other than the hopes and desires that you would be intellectually active and pursue these things. It says in Scripture that it's the glory of God to hide a matter, and it's the glory of kings to seek them out. And so it is definitely not, as we are told in some tales, that the Creator intended for us to be stupid, and then the serpent or Prometheus or Lucifer or whomever came to bring light and intellect to us, and he did us a favor. That is, when you walk through all the aspects of it, I mean, it sounds interesting at first, but when you walk through all the aspects and how things worked out, that seems to be one of many deceptive versions of the tale to simply keep you from ever having a relationship with Dad. I can tell you that of those folks who I know who have engaged themselves in an actual relationship with their Creator, and that's not, again, enjoining themselves to a religion or trying as an intellectual pursuit to figure out the nature of the universe on its own. I've never seen anyone who has actually engaged with the Creator who ever ultimately said, "No, he's an asshole. I'm out of here." Oh, those stories of him being an archon and a bad person. Never seen that happen. Those who actually get to know him actually fall in love, and as did I. The most amazing, beautiful being that I could not only ever met, but could imagine, well beyond imagining. And so I strongly encourage for every person to find their own relationship. It's not, I don't think, found through any sort of religious pursuit or through any doctrine. Even the Bible, which we go through here regularly, I think there's an enormous amount of wisdom, and I find it to be an open invitation to welcome your Creator with open arms and enjoy what He has to offer for you. But not within some religious context or a series of rules or rituals that's going to bring you any closer. I just don't. That doesn't seem to help in any personal relationship. I don't think it's going to help with your spouse. If you go through a set of rituals, they're going to say, "Well, you're not really into this, are you? You're just doing it to make me happy. You're just doing it to punch the card." And I think the same thing is true. Everything that I see in my context of the relationship with the Creator, as well as what I observe from others, and what I read historically, is the case, that it is a personal relationship, and it is a love relationship, interactive. And the Creator family, loves us, and in turn, when we get to know them, it is a return of that love. We're thankful and grateful for the gifts given, not just the gift of life, but personal, interactive gifts, that they are not millions of miles away and disinterested in having spoken things into existence many millions of years ago, only to turn their back on it and just let things be. That is not what I observe. It is certainly observable that they do seem to be somewhat less interactive than once they were early on. That things have taken a turn, and they're just kind of in a moment of putting out the breadcrumbs to see who will follow. That you really have to want this, and it seems to be true with all of the truth movement for those who ultimately wake up. Is that they find out, or you find out, that as soon as you find the truth, again, you want to go out and tell other people about it. And then you find that they're often very resistant to it. And you can't really drag anyone kicking or screaming into understanding the lies that there are perpetrated around them, the nature of the world. You just can't. It's something they have to come to on their own. You can certainly plant seeds and give them hints and hope for the best. But ultimately, it's something they have to come to on their own. This is no different. I have often said that I don't observe that anyone has come into a relationship with the Creator because they lost an argument. Right? They lost a debate. Oh, I guess you win. Fair enough. Right. So, so to that end, again, for those who have questions and are interested in that, in observations or different takes on things, I'm always happy to answer those questions. I'm far less interested whether it is topics of this nature or whether it is the nature of the world around us. I just don't usually want to get into debates with people who have firm beliefs to the contrary. I don't think it's helpful to anyone, really. It's not about an argument. This is something that people have to come to on their own. And so, as Scroll 777 often says, is his little tagline, is belief is the enemy of knowing. And I know some people want to tear that apart and say, but no, you have to believe certain things. I think it makes a good point, which is that when you have strongly held beliefs, it makes it virtually impossible for you to even entertain any new information. And if you were to simply accept one set of beliefs because they were handed to you from someone else, anyone else, and you accept them as truth and never challenge them or look any further, how can you possibly grow? You'll be stuck all your life in one place, and you'll never know anything more than someone else gave to you. And that seems to be mostly the nature of education/indoctrination these days. They have what I call Dunning-Kruger camps, where it is not about learning. In fact, actual learning and asking questions and thinking things through and using logic is discouraged and, in fact, punished. Where instead you are expected to simply repeat and regurgitate the same tried and true but not true stories, these stories that are given to us, and we simply repeat them. And if we get the answer close enough, you get a gold star and you get to move on and learn a little bit more until ultimately, the higher the education, the deeper the indoctrination. That is, that people who get their enough gold stars want to defend those gold stars from anyone who would say otherwise. And so often it is the people with the letters after their name who are the least likely to look even at the idea or the possibility that what we have been told over time is not true. Yet again, those of us who have looked deeply into it, what we find is that nearly everything, not just a few things, but everything about the world around us has been misdescribed or at a minimum, twisted, but much of it is just out and out lies from the history of our world, the nature of it, the shape of it, what it is, where and who and what you are. Everything you're told is a lie. And it seems very specific that it has a reason. It's not just to keep you off your feet, which it does, but it engenders fear. And fear makes people easy to control. And so they tell us that we are, at best, bits and pieces of stardust. We're insignificant. We live on an insignificant rock in the middle of an endless void of nothingness. We could die suddenly at any time, all of mankind be wiped out, and no one would ever know that we have ever been here. All of the accomplishments of everyone are suddenly gone with nothing more than a whimper. And that you don't really matter. Therefore, nothing you do matters, really, ever. So there are no consequences, but yet there's no achievement either. I reject that, and it seemed largely because the evidence, not just because I don't like the idea, but because the evidence suggests strongly otherwise. And so the further we get into this, the more we realize that the nature and the depth of the deception is specifically to hide from you who you are. And who you are, as we mentioned yesterday, is powerful. And in fact, so powerful that they're the ones who are afraid of you. If you ever came to realize what and who you are, it would be disastrous for them. They would no longer hold power over you. I have never seen the movie Sucker Punch. Never yet. But one of the things I wanted to address today, and hopefully Wayne will make it in here in time, is the idea of there are a few things within. Okay, so I guess let me put this in here first. For those of you who are new or aren't familiar with the way that I approach this. So I am, probably as you've guessed already, at least thus far, not big on religion, not big on doctrine, not big on churches, though I have served in that capacity. I just espouse the idea of a direct relationship with your Creator, and that He says that if anyone asks wisdom, let him ask, right? And He will give generously. And He does. That's been my experience. So I don't think that you're that you will do well getting your information from another party who is human, or even other than human, but not the Creator. I think there are those individuals, beings, personages as well, who are discorporate, incorporeal, multi-interdimensional, how about that? Other beings who are willing to communicate with you and give you even, I would say, wisdom, understanding, knowledge, sure. But ultimately, harm you. And certainly, again, from all the information that I have is that the Creator had no intention for you to be harmed and does not want that. In fact, quite the opposite. What the Creator desires for you is to be the perfect you that they had originally intended. And that the world, through its brokenness, has caused you, both directly and indirectly, as a result of sometimes unhealthy coping mechanisms that we build on our own to try to manage that. And by stripping us of those things that they did not make, creating for us the opportunity to become who we were originally meant to be. And that is largely that the opposite of love is not hatred, but rather fear. And so you have this choice of to live out of fear or to live from love. And again, in Scripture, it says very clearly that God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And also that perfect love casts out fear, right? So those things seem to be opposed to one another, okay? Wayne says he'll be about 10 more minutes, so this will be perfect timing, Wayne. You'll get to jump right in. I'll get the whole setup in, unabated. And then you'll get to jump in, and I'll tee it up, and you just knock it down. How about that? But within the context of this direct relationship, that we can not only know the Creator and know what perfection is, but become more like them by receiving perfect love and therefore passing it on to others around us. Right? And so we've been talking recently in a number of streams, both here and on other channels, about this idea that we're surrounded by luminiferous ether that we have through our own act of will and through speaking out things that are not as though they are, to manifest our will, much as you see cymatics here, which is sound, which is photographed in a medium like water. It creates coherent pattern. And it is my view that the entire world is a matter of, this is how matter is created. It is energy, electricity, and magnetism that becomes cohesive into matter. And therein, we were intended to create, literally, the world around us, to manifest our will. And hey, Plopso, welcome. So ultimately, this is who we were meant to be, and that we still, to a degree, it is not now what it once was, certainly, and the world has changed dramatically. That at one time, probably before the deluge, the power of this electromagnetism was so strong, and our understanding of it was so much higher and keen that we could do like literally manifest everything with the spoken word. Right? Just manifest our will in a way that we would think of now as magic. And I think that's what magic really is. The lingering bits, some people know enough to do some of that, to really manifest the will. But I think that you have the ability to do so. But I also think that it works much better when you are in alignment, when you're in the same frequency as that of the Creator. It works so much better because that is the fundamental frequency of the universe. If you take an alternate or broken frequency, then you have to work much harder. It comes at a much higher cost. And so those who are doing that spend a lot of energy and effort doing those things to benefit themselves, but at a huge and enormous cost. When ultimately, if you align your frequency and vibration with that of the Creator by engaging in a relationship and receiving and becoming not just receiving, but a conduit for love toward others, then you manifest in the world this frequency, which gives you a much more powerful place to stand. You do not have to have fear at all. Oh my gosh, instant coffee? Oh, dark glasses, Woody. It hurts me. Oh, it hurts me. We'll have to fix you up, my friend, with some real coffee. Oh dear, it hurts me to hear that. But yes, if we align ourselves with the frequency of Dad and the Creator in such a way that we are vibrating at that same, or at least a sympathetic frequency, then the things that we wish to manifest will be in not only in accordance with what they want, but it will manifest in a way with power, right? And with power in a manner that is, again, what we would, people around you would consider miraculous. I think this is exactly what Jesus did. He, again, already was at that frequency, being the, it says, only begotten Son of God. I think he existed prior. My view is that he was the very first of all creation, that the Creator being immensely lonely for eons, unimaginable. Ultimately, first split himself into two parts, wisdom and justice, if you want to put it that, truth and wisdom, sort of power and love. And taking opposing yet complementary sides, polarity, if you will, not duality, but polarity. But still, they needed companionship, such that they were willing to even risk their own existence to pull a portion of themselves out that ultimately became another individual, and that was the first person who we would call Jesus, the only begotten Son of God. That's the way, the only real DNA, if you will, pulling out. It literally pulled a piece of himself off to become something different. But that gave him the understanding of how to make life, and then from then began making all kinds of crazy things. Were described all sorts of angelic beings that are, wow, maybe scary to us, but very powerful, but ethereal beings. And then decided at some point to make a mini-me universe, and that is where we live, that has a physical bounds, bounded by physics, but we are meat, but also spirit, and gave us life. So just in my view, and from what I understand, it was Junior, J-Bro, Jesus, however you want to call him, who ultimately designed and made us and said, let us create man in our own image and in our own likeness. And so in the same way, he was paying honor to his Creator, his Father, by duplicating that same thing. I'm going to make a mini-me version and make them like us so that they can be kind of the God of this world. And then things went south. We were, say, disobedient, but we broke the thing, and someone else took over. And ultimately, he had to then to let it run its course, because if he had taken it back at that point, it would never have been a gift to begin with. It was ours. So that is where we are now. It appears to be running toward the end of that whole thing playing itself out, ultimately where it gets made new. And when it is, anyone who is not in relationship and in the presence of Dad, when he makes it new, the whole thing will be destroyed. And so they will be along with it. It was never a punishment. It's not hell as a endless fiery torture for what you've done wrong. It is that you are separate and no longer able to be in the presence of the Creator because you're imperfect, and that perfection will destroy you without some sort of mediation. That mediation then was the perfect sacrifice of Jesus to do what he did, to shed the blood because we have an enemy, right? Someone who already disobeyed and as a result was going to meet his end. Right, and he made the argument: if you give us free will and we choose to not be obedient, if you will, and the result is destruction, is that really free will? Well, again, it seems a powerful, logical argument. But ultimately, if you remove yourself from the source of power, then you are powerless. The ultimate end of breaking with perfection is imperfection, and that will ultimately be the end. So that death and destruction literally is a gift, because otherwise you would be permanently and inexorably falling apart continuously. And what kind of end would that be? So it does seem as if, again, we have been misled into thinking, to being afraid of, for example, death, and afraid of the Creator as someone who's out to get us and wants to punish us for what we have done wrong, when instead he simply wants to give us back what was once ours. And then there's an impediment to that, which is the enemy who hates us because really he hates Dad. And so just like a jilted lover, if I can't have you, no one will. And so he wants to hurt Dad by killing us. And that's really how this game is playing out. And again, that's how I understand it. You may see it differently. And again, I reserve the right to be completely wrong, but I certainly think there's an enormous amount of evidence for that. Hey, Jeremy Stewart, thanks for coming, and thanks for your email as well. So today, so one of the things that happens is, again, arguments that get made against these ideas, right, are one is that somehow the idea of Jesus as a sacrifice and as a savior is some sort of trick, that it keeps you from achieving self-apotheosis, that you simply give up. And you're waiting for someone else to do it for you, and therefore you're not going to grow yourself. Again, I've likened this to if the ultimate goal is, again, perfection, we're so far away from that. It's much like jumping the Grand Canyon. Are there things you can do to increase your jumping ability? Absolutely. Maybe you could jump even 10% or 20% further, maybe even 50 feet. Ultimately, though, you're going to end up at the bottom as a pink mist. Not really valuable in that sense, because you cannot simply achieve apotheosis. It is not available to you, and you cannot know enough. Show me any of these things. Show me any of these ideas that, other than being good ideas or a way to look at things, actually improves your life. Because according to Solomon, and I will agree with this, increased understanding increases sorrow, and increased wisdom increases your pain. I would agree with that. And so by having more understanding, you simply make the pain worse. How is that helpful? What can you actually do to change the world? And again, I say changing the world may be very difficult, if not impossible, but you can change the world around you, and that is by manifesting will. And if the manifestation is love, you literally are changing the world. So, to that end, if there are these two arguments, one is that somehow salvation through Jesus is a trick designed to keep you here over and over again. Okay, if you accept that again, then if you are right, then you must be smart enough and figure it out to find a way through it. If you're wrong, right, then you've missed the only shot that you had of getting on the boat that from a sinking ship. If you choose the other way and say that there is, if there is a truth, right, that there was the first of all creation, who is also God by virtue of being literally torn away from him, who, when his creation, mankind, designed to be the mini-me creator, failed and was deceived into following the same path as an enemy, that he chose, instead of just kissing it off and cutting bait and not throwing good money after bad, decided to, much like if you've read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, C.S. Lewis, the very first one, Aslan, right? The witch, because of the acts of Edmund, had claim over him. He took the magic, and she had claim over him. And so she had the old magic. She had the right to take to take his life. And so with that, she was ready to exercise that right. But let's see if I go back here. What I'm looking for is there's Wayne. All right, we'll have you join here. So if we then again, she had the right to take his life, and so ultimately, because of this, Aslan then traded himself, which he had the right to do, but what she did not know was the deeper magic, that by it being an innocent sacrifice and death by proxy, it gave that gift to anyone. Right? That's exact. I think he nailed it in terms of that allegory. Okay, so we'll try to get Wayne here. Let's see if I can get him on board. We're doing this in our super professional manner here. Dr. Wayne McRoy, is that you?
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to my laboratory.
I'm getting a little bit of an echo back through
You're getting
the
an echo?
channel here.
Okay, tell you what. Why don't then it's probably...
I think it's better now.
Oh, okay.
There, it disappeared.
Okay, that's just a digital connection. It does sometimes occur.
Especially on the Skypes.
Yes.
What are we talking about here tonight, man? I didn't have a chance to really tune in yet.
Well, you came at a perfect time because I was just about to say it, and I think this is just the perfect place to bring it in. Well, all of a sudden, let's see, all my windows went away because I brought you up here. I need this one as well. Thank you there. Okay, so here's what I was getting to. First, talking about the need for a savior and that sort of thing. But the other one that comes up, and this is the one I actually wanted to talk about this evening, is a lot of people have this problem saying, I don't want to have to worship anybody. And what is the nature of worship? Basically, is a topic I want to just quickly explore this evening, and just kind of lead it in with this. At one point, in my weird career, I was sort of semi-retired, writing articles, technical articles, editing a book for somebody, that sort of thing, and had a little. I had a music store in Northern California, and this kid came in, and we were talking about it, and I was surprised to find, and the reason I was surprised is because lots of piercings and big sleeves of tattoos. Found out he was a worship leader at a local church. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And but he said something interesting. He said, all music is worship. It just depends on who and what you're worshiping.
Yeah,
that's
I could see that. I could kind of agree with that statement.
At least I found it very, very interesting in regard to music specifically. But ultimately, I wanted to get to the idea of worship and what it is to you. So I could take the specific definition, of course, which is the feeling or expression of reverence and admiration, particularly for a deity. And there's also a definition here which says for some people, it is not, it says actually for many, worship is not about an emotion. It's more about a recognition of God, which frankly I find kind of sad. But it calls it an act of religious devotion. I'm actually going to disagree with that definition. I'll give you mine in a moment. But first, Wayne, what is worship to you?
I think worship is pretty much anything you would devote your time and energy to, something you think is a worthwhile kind of a cause or a type of reverence. Like you said, it's reverence for God, but there's other things that you could offer the same type of attention to, and this is where it gets a little tricky and convoluted, because if you're devoting your centers of attention on other things like, say, yourself, and you're viewing yourself as being, the object of worship, this is called humanism, and it's kind of a very dangerous road to go down, because you're really kind of when you're looking at that concept and you're worshiping, the concept of humanism, that's kind of diverting your reverence from the actual creator of this place, God. So, when you're doing that, you're kind of putting yourself on a pedestal above God. And that's kind of a dangerous situation to be in, because we're all flawed and mortal human beings here. So this is kind of a tricky concept for a lot of people. Worship means different things to different people. Now, I would call it a godly reverence to God, giving him, devoting to him your time, your energy, your efforts, your attention, and that kind of thing. And you could devote your time, energy, and attention to other things and, in a sense, actually worship these other things and, make them of an importance in your life, like giving them extra value that they shouldn't necessarily have.
I think you're getting hit all over the target there. For me, I'm going to break it down. I think it does mean a variety of things to a variety of different people. And in fact, even in the chat, it's been mentioned that for some people, some people take this idea of words have meaning and they break words apart. Sometimes ignoring the original etymology and where the word comes from, and just going with homonym value for, in this case, like worship. right? And breeding the idea that religion has been used by different factions to control people. I don't disagree with that idea. I think it's very clear that religion has been
Well, I
used.
think that's obvious on the face of it.
On the face,
actually,
prima
but,
facie, exactly. But for me, I think I will break it down to its most basic definition, at least as far as I'm concerned, and then moving out from that with examples. And I think I can put it as simply as possible. It is whatever you devote the majority of your time and attention to. That is what receives your worship, to varying degrees, certainly. But it's been said, for example, when somebody loves somebody else, they worship the ground they walk on. And I think that's not entirely misdescribed. That ultimately, whatever we spend our time and attention and resources on, we're providing a kind of worship. So that can be certainly in human terms, right? It has been said again recently, Eddie Van Halen recently passed, and he was claimed to be worshipped as a guitar god. That's probably true in some ways. Some people idolized him, right? And so it is whatever you give your time and attention to becomes your object of worship. It can then take on bigger attributes as the more this goes. And for me, when I, again, ascribe this idea to a deity, I don't have any trouble giving my time and attention and focus to the source of love, right? It becomes bigger than that. It does become the sense of reverence, without question. But what do you think of that, Wayne? Breaking it down to its basic, to the basic principle of it's whatever you spend your time and attention on.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's what you're devoting your energy and your attention and your time to. Like, these are the most valuable commodities that we have in this world. Time and energy, pretty much, are when it comes down to it, are a more valuable commodity than money. And our attention, it's another valuable commodity that we only have a finite amount of, because we only have so much time here. So what we're spending our time devoting our energy and stuff into, it's important that we actually are channeling that in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Because if we're worshiping, say, material goods, like a lot of people find themselves in the trap of actually worshiping money or the accumulation of wealth, these kind of things. And they may not, realize that on the surface, but there's a lot of people that fall into that category when it comes down to it.
And it makes a lovely segue, what you've just said there, into the idea of what was asked in chat is, well, what is the etymology of worship? It actually comes from Old English, and basically the idea is it puts worthship. It's based on the idea of worth. So something has value, and so just like you would have, the ship is an embodiment of, it's the embodiment of giving something worth. It's recognizing the value in something, and so it's worthship. It's the acknowledgement of worth is basically the root of it. So ascribing that to material things, money, certainly makes sense. If you're going to worship it, you're recognizing its worth, its value to you.
Right, absolutely. And that's the whole thing. It's how much value do you put in this thing that you're devoting your attention to? And that's kind of just the most basic definition of worship, worth. And then, ship. A lot of people could look at this and realize that much of the etymology and stuff that we deal with comes from nautical terms. So here we go again with the ship. We're here on this ship of fools, just sailing along. So what is it worth to us? Where are we going to devote our time? What ship are we going to put our energies and our time and our commitment into? Is it going to be something that's worthy of that attention, or is it going to be something that's gross material?
Absolutely.
And that's where people kind of get lost at times, because we've all been there. We've all been guilty about putting things first in our lives that we probably shouldn't, whether that's a bad relationship or trying to earn wealth or things like that.
Or if you've been around somebody with an addiction, drugs, right? Alcohol.
Right.
All those things
absolutely
certainly become
all those things
become the center
Yeah,
of
that
one's
becomes the
attention.
object of your worship.
Exactly.
When
It
it comes
becomes,
down to it.
yeah, the center of your attention and your focus. And to carry it a little bit further, if you're, again, getting into etymology, just to go back, ship is, again, the idea here, it is based on the word, ship. It's from German Schiff, the boat. But the idea that if you're on the ship, you're safe. So it's all contained within the ship. So when you say membership, it's everything within. And so worthship, it's everything contained within. It's a whole. It's the idea of solid. Or in Greek, that would be stereo, right? Solid, three-dimensional, height, breadth, and depth. So the idea of worthship, again, it gives embodiment to worth. And so when you're worshiping something, or again, we might even say idolize, to make an idol of something. And I noticed that Joe Ray said early in the chat, right, that his mom once said that, he's worshiping the guitar. Well, I mean, on the one hand, the way I know his mom, his mother now passed on, but she was using it as an epithet to say that because she saw it as evil. But the strict definition of it, not necessarily wrong, because at the time we were certainly giving all of our time and attention and focus to music, and so we spent hours and hours practicing and writing and doing all those things. Again, is it necessarily bad? Again, it depends on the motive. See, right? Intent is everything here. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so,
I agree with you there.
And so worship, having things that you worship or adore, have adoration for, that you hold in value, those don't necessarily have to be negative things. Intention is everything. And so if you're doing it with a positive intention, there's nothing wrong with that, of course. Again, it is my experience, and certainly, again, it's laid out this way in Scripture, but again, I would just point out that in the context of relationship, these things that are laid forth as doctrine or as rules kind of go away. Right. So in other words, if you, it says, in Scripture, don't have no other God before me. Right. So don't, you're doing wrong. Right. So now it becomes a matter of right and wrong. When ultimately, again, if you really look at this from a relational standpoint, it is simply a matter of you give your attention to what you love. And if you have love for your Creator, it's not a burden. Right? In the same way that I care for my wife when she has medical issues, and she has many, but it's not a burden for me because I love her and I want the best for her. So there is no, there's no sense of bitterness or resentment over the thing. There's no, oh God, I have to do this. Right? In the same way that these things are not rules. For me, they simply become, I wish to spend as much time as I can with those I love.
Absolutely. And, that just reminds me of another message that actually I heard earlier today. Basically, there's a lot of people who claim to be Christians, and they harbor a lot of resentment and a lot of legalism in their hearts.
Yep.
And this is basically, how Christianity really got the bad rap that it's gotten, because a lot of these people walk around, they're, members of the church or whatever. They're, the lay people there, and they do various functions within the church, and they show up every week, and, they put on the surface appearance of it all. But when it comes down to it, they're just so distant from the actual Spirit of God that they just don't recognize God moving in people's lives. And, this is kind of a situation where a lot of folks have gotten into. It's turned into a ritual for them,
yep.
A man-made ritual. So they just go along, and it's the one that sits in the same seat at church every week. That's my seat,
And you can even
it's
see
that person.
Yeah,
they fall into the routine, and the routine offers them a little bit of comfort, but they don't really apply that in their lives. And, they just don't have that dynamic Holy Spirit operating in their lives. And that's kind of a really sad thing, because a lot of people fall into the legalism trap, and they're the same ones that'll tell you, oh, you're listening to rock music, you'll go to hell.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And this is why I say,
That's
you know,
always been kind of silly to me, but all right, if you think so, I don't see that, but all right.
this is why I say that the biggest obstacle to Christianity are Christians, right?
Of course.
And this is, I think, exactly what Paul in his letters, his various letters, which comprise a large portion of the New Testament, was talking about in terms of this idea that, again, if you're trying to keep a set of rules that you cannot keep, then ultimately your only measurement of how well you're doing is to compare yourself to others who are trying to do the same thing, and to say, oh, I'm doing better than you by these rules. And yet, as those who do the rule keeping, for example, it is the lawyers who are the shysters, because they're always looking for loopholes, always looking for a way around the rules. And again, I'm not trying to beat up anybody's religion, but here a great example of this is, for example, and I can't remember the name. It's just maybe you know it off the top of your head, Wayne. There's in Manhattan, there's that cord that runs all the way around Manhattan, and ultra-Orthodox Jews spend about $5 million a year making sure that that cord is unbroken. And every Friday they go around and make sure that it is continuous. Well, the reason they do this is because of the Sabbath rules that the ultra-Orthodox Jews keep, and they can't travel a certain distance. However, it is okay if it's within the boundaries of your home, and as long as you have a continuous fence around it, it doesn't matter the size, it's considered your home. And so basically it's a legal loophole to allow them to travel within Manhattan to basically skirt the rules. The same way that many Orthodox Jews back in the day you could only go a Sabbath journey, but a Sabbath journey was considered a certain distance until you had a meal. And so sometimes they would go out on Friday and put a little sandwich or a cracker every couple of miles, right? A Sabbath journey. So they could go a couple of miles, eat a cracker. I had a meal, off we go again. Oh, 2 more miles. Here's another cracker. I'll rest for a moment. Here's another cracker, and we'll go on. And it was their way of skirting those. See, technically, right? And it is always the legalists who miss the spirit of the thing.
Absolutely.
Right? And
Yeah.
so it is exactly those people who make Christianity or any religion a burden. It is.
Right.
It's exactly what Jesus said, right? You make it a burden, and you won't lift a finger yourself.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's the thing. A lot of these people that practice this kind of legalistic doctrine or the legalism idea, as it were, these are some of the most miserable people you'll ever meet, like, honestly, because it's like nothing you do would be good enough. You know what I mean? Because it's basically the whole concept of outlining like the Ten Commandments and outlining sins in the Bible is just basically for us to understand, hey, you know what? We're fallible, flawed human beings, and we all sin, and this just demonstrates that.
Yeah,
but
here's a
it's
description
not
of perfection.
intended.
Yeah, here's a description of perfection. You're not that, but
Right.
but that's what it looks like, right? So you want to be close to that. The further away you get from that, the more imperfect you are. But again, everybody's imperfect. Hey, nobody's perfect. Well, there was that one guy, but we killed him. So
Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, the whole idea, though, of legalism is pretty much summed up in the book of Timothy. I mean, these are the people who have a form of godliness, but deny the power thereof.
Exactly.
And that's kind of where people are stuck at. I mean, legalism, this is exactly what this is. They have an outward form of godliness, like they try to put on the act for people. Oh, I'm a good Christian. I tithe. I go to church every week. I collect the offering, and I'm part of a member of the board of the church, and this and that. And it's all good. They do nice things and that kind of thing. But where's the spirit? But and a lot of these people are some of the most miserable people you'll meet.
Exactly,
and that's the truth.
And this is exactly what Jesus told the Samaritan woman in John 4, right? That there's coming a day when what God wants is people who will worship in spirit and in truth. And I tell you, that day is right now, right? That's what he said to her. So no longer having to do with the rules. He was telling her very clearly, I'm here to do away with religion. Hey, that sounds great. Let's make a religion out of it. No. But telling her very clearly, spirit and truth, it is a matter of the heart. It's not a matter of whether or not you can keep the rules. Right. And so this is, again, where many people struggle with. And I will say, again, to me, it is not just Christianity, but it is any worldview that puts you in a state of you're going to work your way out of it. Right, you're going to achieve a better state by the effort that you put into it, whether that is a kind of gnosis, whether you find the magic decoder ring. whether you ultimately get to transmutation, again, that you can, through your own efforts and understanding, figure it out on your own. And
That's the doctrine of good works. Good works will get you there. That's what that premise is you're talking about. And every religion, bar one, that's the whole goal to it all is, your good behavior, your good deeds will get you to heaven or get you to move on to the next phase here. And the only one that goes against that whole concept is Christianity. It's a free gift from God. And that's the thing. And that's why Jesus said he'll be a stumbling block for people, because it's the complete opposite of everything else.
Well, and I would say Christianity, as originally intended,
as originally
which
intended.
is to follow the teachings, which is to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, not a religion. Again, I avoid the religion thing at all costs, because again, I think religion simply gets in the way of relationship. But
absolutely, religion's just an enhanced form of legalism. That's about it.
Exactly.
In my view, it's all dogma. It's all, it's a control system. That organized religions are a control system, regardless of which religion you're talking about, or which God you serve, or anything like that.
Even if that religion is paganism or Wiccan,
absolutely,
or any of those, they're all a kind of religion. Again, with a sort of worship. And from my perspective, if you're going to, is it wrong to give worth, right? Worship. Is it wrong to give worth to creation, the beauty of creation, trees and rocks? And no, it's a beautiful thing that was provided by the Creator. But why miss the Creator and in fact fight the Creator directly? And instead worship the creation. To me, that makes so little sense, other than pride, right? Like, F you. Right? I don't like what I've heard about you, so I'm going to do this. So I reject even the attempts to have communication. It's stunning to me. I do understand being pissed at people who are, Christians or any religious view, because people can be assholes, and they behave that way, right? So it's like, well, why would I want to be like you? I don't want to be an asshole, frankly. But again, it's just I always encourage people if the reason that you dislike these ideas are because of people, whether that is people a long time ago in the form of a church like the Catholic Church, or whether it's people that you've met in your life, whether that's your parents or your grandparents or other people who treated you poorly because they were judgmental and religious and wanted to control you. That does not represent the Creator at all. And accepting that it does is just the same as if you accepted whatever CNN told you, or the president, or whomever is a known liar. People are known liars, and they do bad things for personal and usually selfish reasons. All right, and so to not go to the source and say, "Hey, who are you? What kind of being are you?" Again, I always encourage that. If you find that being to be distasteful to you, okay, cool. All right, that's cool. But I don't think you will. That's not been my experience.
No, same here. Same here. I don't think people, when they truly seek the face of God, they're not going to be disappointed when they just ask him, "Hey, could you help me out here?" That's the whole thing.
Well, I mentioned earlier before
he says, "Just cry out," and he hears our cries from heaven, and he will answer us, and he will show himself. All you got to do is ask, and that's it. If you knock at the door, it will be opened unto you.
It's exactly what he says, right? And I said before you arrived, Wayne, that I have never met anyone who actually got into a relationship with their Creator for real, not just joined a religion or accepted some philosophy. I have never met anyone who got into a relationship long enough to know them that ever didn't love them thereafter. They might have struggled and had issues of belief now and then, but none of them ever said, "No, he's an asshole." I've never met anybody who encountered their Creator who had anything bad to say about him.
And here's the thing: a lot of people, especially Christians, especially like the legalistic Christians, will make you feel like if you have doubts about these things or questions about them, or you find logical fallacies in the Word of God that don't seem to make sense on the surface, and you point these things out, they get really offended by that. And
Or they'll say,
there's no reason to get offended, because we all have doubts, and we all
have
struggle
questions, yeah.
sometimes with understanding of a lot of these things. And it's good to question things. That's basically one of my big mottos: question everything. So, like, if you don't question, I mean, God wants us to ask questions, and ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
Because he'll show you things, and sometimes it takes time and it's not right away, but he'll show you things that'll just blow your mind after a while.
Yeah.
So it's all you have to do is ask, reach out.
I would put it this way, that again, there's a huge difference, right, between not understanding a thing and saying, I don't understand these issues, why these things. And again, I find that he's not often really great about answering why. But when you get to know them, you will know, at least again, my experience is, you will know that they are good and you can trust them. So even if you don't know the why, there's a huge difference between understanding why and doubting whether or not they're good. And to me, the only way you can answer that question for yourself is to ask those questions, right? If you're really going to ask the question, go ask the person themselves and say, hey, who are you? And what do you want? And what kind of person are you? Are you okay? Are you trustworthy? Are you cool? Are you not cool? But it does, as you said, it very clearly says what he's looking for is a broken heart and a contrite spirit. Right, that you are humble, and you don't have this pride like, I'm better than you. I think again, if you encounter him, you go, oh no, I'm not. Nope, okay, never mind. But yeah, if you want to find out for yourself without believing something somebody else said or somebody else did, right? Do simply for yourself. Go find out.
Right, absolutely. And another place where we could find out more about God and the character of God is look at nature. Nature is kind of a dim reflection of the Creator. The creation is a dim reflection of the Creator. But you can see some of his attributes reflected in creation. And I mean, I think about just the beauty of the autumn colors here right now. We're driving up the road today, and I'm just looking at the trees, because I live up on top of a mountain in the middle of nowhere, and it's a lot of woods and trees and stuff, and it's just beautiful right now, just with all the colors. And this is but a dim reflection of the Creator when it comes down to it. But I mean, you could see the beauty and the planning that goes along with this. You can see the cycles of nature and just the beauty about how it all works, and how in its perfect time it does what it's supposed to, and it renews year after year after year.
And my question
it's
always,
just astounding.
Wayne, my question always is, and who told you it was beautiful? How did you know?
See that? Yeah,
that's the part that really gets me, right? Is that it's put in all of this.
Yeah, and sometimes that's you just need to take a look at the wonder that is nature. And like, no man can figure this out. Like still, no matter how much your biologists or your scientists and everything, no matter how much they claim to know about how this stuff all works and this and that, they still haven't got the foggiest clue, and they couldn't reproduce it themselves.
Absolutely. We know very little about how any of it works, irrespective of their claims to the contrary. And again, I've said it over and over, that absolute certainty is the eminent domain of frauds and fools. If people tell you that they're absolutely certain about these things, they are either badly mistaken or they're lying to you. And when it comes to the nature of scientism, behind a lab coat, somebody lied to somebody, and then everybody else after that believed them, and are defending the nature of it simply to hold their position of power.
Absolutely, and that's a lot of it as well. Is you have to look. Our sciences, our quote unquote sciences that we have, they're all bought and paid for, and they have their own agendas. And that's the whole thing people need to understand. They're vested in certain outcomes with this science. So, of course, that's the outcome that they're going to claim, whether it's true or not. And that's the whole thing. And then they'll use the mathematical formulas, and they'll tailor everything to meet the worldview that they need their science to shape.
Sure.
and they'll just try to make it work that way. It's like putting the cart before the horse, but they do it all the time, and they have people believe in it, and
Well,
it's absurdity, a lot of it. But when it comes down to it, they figure a little something out about it. They see, okay, well, if you do X, then Y happens, and then from that correlation, they do the funky math, and they think, well, how do we explain this? Well, let's explain it this way. But in order to explain it this way, we have to put in component Z into the formula.
Sure.
But if we do that, and then we balance out the equation on the other side, then it works. And it's like, so we could use Z to explain X to Y.
Right, exactly.
And that's how they do things. And it's retarded when it comes down to it. But this is what they call science.
And even Copernicus said regarding the heliocentric model, right, when he was coming up with the distance to the sun, he said, it matters not whether the values are likely or even probable or even possible, only that it matches the mathematics. Only that we come up with a formula that matches. And I have often said that it's just as easy to buy a scientist as it is to buy a politician.
Absolutely. Maybe even easier.
Maybe easier because, yes, it works like this. As you say, they figure out one aspect of one thing, and then they say, hey, I think this is how this works. And then through the process of peer review, enough people go, yeah, that sounds good. And then anybody else says, no, I don't think.
That sounds like it might be something.
Sure.
I think I'll sign on for that. That sounds like solid research to me.
That looks good.
Let's call it quantum.
Yeah.
And it works like magic.
The math doesn't work
quantum.
out. Okay, so the math doesn't work out. What do we do? Okay, take all the empty numbers. We'll call that, we don't know what it is. We can't find it. We'll call it dark. It's dark matter. We don't have it, so it's dark. Dark energy, we need that. So.
But there's more of that than the actual matter.
Yeah, because the math doesn't work out.
Because we can't make it work.
If you've ever wondered about those things, dark matter literally is the hole in the equation. It didn't work. It doesn't explain what we see. And so in order to figure it out, they had to come up with something to fill in the gap. And that's what dark matter.
I think Einstein originally called it the cosmological constant. Isn't that what it was? He couldn't quite figure out, the math doesn't work unless I do this. But if I do this, then it works. So therefore, there must be something out there that actually makes this math work. That's the cosmological constant.
And now we have the Lorentz contraction, which was used specifically for the Michelson-Morley experiment, which demonstrated that there was no rotation to Earth and that there wasn't ether, and then they just flipped it around on its head. So the Lorentz transform basically said, the gear that you used contracted by exactly enough to give you a null result. It's the most preposterous, hilarious thing you could ever imagine.
You did it wrong.
You did, yeah.
That's what they said.
And you did it wrong. So, because we don't like the outcome. If the evidence doesn't match your theory, change the evidence. So, change the data. That's pretty much how it works. So, and again, this goes as a great place to go back to this idea of what is worship and what can you worship. There are those who worship scientists and scientism. There are those who have degrees who worship their own education. They worship themselves. Some who worship money, and some who worship sex. We've talked about addiction and drugs and power. Right? They're addicted to power. All these things. If it takes your time and attention, it is a form of worship.
Absolutely, and scientism's a big one for a lot of people. So many people are bought into this whole concept that science is the only way to view reality, when in fact it's only a small portion of how we could view reality, and it actually violates scientific method when you actually only use science as the observation tool for things.
Yeah,
so it's a contradiction in and of itself.
It's hilarious.
It is, but people are so bought into this, idea that the guy with the white lab coat comes out and says, "Yes, I'm a scientist. I have a degree in theoretical physics." What's theoretical physics? It's pretty much
it's nonsense.
It's
imaginary.
I could BS my way into using math to explain things.
A mathematician.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's basically what it is.
I'm a mathematician.
It's not really. It's a degree in nothing when it comes down to it.
Well, I do.
It's theoretical. I mean, no offense to physicists out there. I mean, there is real physics, real laws of physics we could observe and repeat. But theoretical physics is like, maybe not. They could stretch the math to make it work. Just to fit their worldview, but That's about it.
Like I say, a mathematician, if you will.
Yep.
But I do find it really fascinating that those who are not involved, again, those Dunning-Kruger wool-wearing folks out there, I find it hilarious that whenever you begin to actually quote science to them, they call you a science denier.
I don't think you quite understand how this works,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. And I just can't wrap my brain around it. No matter how much you show somebody scientific evidence of something, like let's take vaccines, okay? I could show somebody literally dozens upon dozens upon dozens of peer-reviewed scientific literature that shows that vaccines have very negative side effects. They've been known to cause all kinds of different autoimmune disorders and things of that nature, and the ingredients in vaccines. And I could show you, like I said, literally dozens of studies, and people are still no, they're good for you. That's been discredited. That's debunked. Oh, okay. So
fact,
you're telling me that these scientists in these scientific journals, these peer-reviewed ones, mind you, they're all debunked because it doesn't line up with what the media tells you, and that's the other big one, is people just, for whatever reason, they
Trust the
believe
media.
whatever the mainstream media tells them. If it comes across their television, well, that's true. If it comes across the New York Times as a headline, well, that's the truth.
Well, now you got me.
These people
now
have
you got me
gotten
in
lies over and over.
Now you got me in 2 points I got to make here, and one is to go backwards a little bit. Yeah, when it comes to any kind of medication, if you find an honest pharmacist, they will tell you. If you find one that'll tell you the truth, they'll tell you that the mechanics, the actual functional part of drugs, there's almost none where they actually know what it is. They know the results, and it has these kind of results in many people, a certain subset of people. It does affect your chemistry, but why? The actual mechanism, they don't have a clue. And the one that they know the least amount are vaccinations. That's the one that they know the least of. So if anybody tells you otherwise, it's a lie. And secondly, how you say with regard to people just believe the news and that sort of stuff. I was going to just comment today that I noticed the news article that appeared today. I'll probably cover it in, I guess it'll be not the poppycock, but the cocky pop report, because Rose will be gone for a couple of days this week. But I'm going to cover that Twitter has again blocked basically and limited the reach of President Trump's claim that he's now immune to the beer bug after having had it. Well, irrespective of the claims, what I got to say about that is it is, I would say, nearly unprecedented that a media company, a technology company, has the cojones to say, no, we're going to define what the narrative is. So when there are numerous doctors who say, no, it's not this, it's this, if it doesn't match the narrative that they want, they're going to just shut them down. Even again, the president of the United States, or whether that's MIT trained doctors, or whether it's a group of 500 doctors, if it doesn't go with the narrative, they think they have the right to control that narrative. And if people, again, when people don't see the problem with that, that is wow.
Yeah, that's. It's really disheartening
it's
when you
on
look
the
at stuff like
it's
that.
on the
like
face of it.
How they get away with this, like they're the ones that are trying to set the narrative, and you can see the whole Trump debacle with all of that. I've never seen such. I just laughed at that whole news story for that entire weekend because Thursday night, it's Thursday night into Friday morning, like 1 a.m. or something on Friday. All of a sudden, I tested positive. And then all of a sudden, he's sick. He's in the hospital. He's better now by Monday.
Yeah, no problem. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is. If you look at the entire narrative, go back to the very beginning of January when they were telling us about this terrible thing happening in Wuhan, China, and the images coming out, and the video clips of people just dropping dead in the streets, and people wearing full bunny hazmat suits. Right? Do you see anything like that happening? Of course not. In fact, here again, they come out, and now Facebook will, of course, their fact checkers will come out and say, no, the CDC did not say it's less dangerous than the flu. But if you look at the numbers, it actually is. So
No, that's not exactly what they said. What they said was it's almost as
yeah,
dangerous as the
okay,
flu. No, they didn't say it was less dangerous than the
yeah.
flu.
So it's
It's semantics. They use the semantics game with a lot of it, and it's all nonsense. And the thing is, I think the vast majority of people know it and call it out as such, but still,
I know
they're
you want to think the vast majority do, but I'm saying that if you go to just about anybody, my observation is the numbers really are still about that Pareto distribution. It's about 80-20 at best.
You think so?
Yep.
I think we're getting there. I think it's hitting.
I think we're way better
they've done
than
enough suspicious stuff with it that people are questioning it.
I think we're
So,
way better than it used to be. I do, but
yeah.
I think we've gone from 3% to maybe 18% in terms of people who will go. I mean, I would say if you ask anybody on the street, about 95% would say, yes, the media can be deceptive at times, right? Or they'll misdescribe or reframe something and make it misleading. But if you ask them on any story, then they'll go, nope, okay, it's true, that's true, that's true, right? And the only ones that they're going to reject is the opposite of whatever side they take. So those who follow Fox News are going to maybe now reject some CNN if it has to do specifically with their favorite political side. But overall, I still think about 80% of the population. And again, I would say if you're in a rural area, it will seem like everyone around you is more on your side. But the vast numbers are in the cities. If you look at the population distribution map of the U.S., a huge chunk is in the cities, and they seem to be as close to an NPC as I can imagine. I've had several questions about that since revealing that it's been out for about three or 4 years now. The study that was done that not only a good number, but really a high preponderance of college students now report having no inner dialogue, which was something that I couldn't even imagine.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to me because I can't imagine having no inner dialogue.
I can't either.
But
And I initially
would.
thought, Wayne, that was a mistake. Something in the way that they asked the questions was wrong, and it's been actually repeated several times since then. It was such shocking information that people just a lot of people I can't imagine that. But as it turns out, yeah, they're living in a largely reactionary world. They're like literally like a lizard. It's all kind of just reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the folks back in the mystery schools and the different occult secret societies and stuff. That's what they refer to as the animal brain,
lizard brain.
Right, the animal. I mean, this is what the things like the symbol of the Sphinx. This is what this represents. The combining of the animal man and the higher man. That's what that represents. The ascension to the higher spiritual man from the animalistic man of the material world. But our society today is engineered into the hyper materialist viewpoint, which kind of steers people more into that animal mindset, that reactionary mindset.
Steers
and that's
more,
kind of,
I'm going to say, intentionally programmed, like a mofo.
Right.
Like everything they do is to try to create that sense of mindless reaction. There is no really rational thought. It is simply a reactionary response to the stimuli. And most of that stimuli now is electronic media, and they just respond immediately.
Yep. And it's been wired that way on purpose. These devices have been made intentionally addictive for us, and they hit the dopamine centers of your brain and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where they've kind of geared you down to the hyper materialist viewpoint and equated you with an animal, and they could control you much like an animal. I mean, just look at cattle pens and stuff like that. It's easy to herd cattle into the stalls or whatever for a skilled herdsman or something like that. And this is the same kind of thing. This all has to do with the science of cybernetics. It's all about control and engineering control systems and different ways to manipulate systems and control them. And, the human being is a system in and of itself. So, and when you take into view the masses of the human beings, the public mind, the public consciousness, that's altogether different than our individual mindsets. And that's one of the things. It's much easier to control the public mindset than it is to control individuals, and that's why they're steering us toward a system of collectivism.
Man,
That's
just
part of the plan.
Just getting there is going with the current mindset of simply reactionary response. How easy would it be then to get people to accept an internal chip that would instantly respond to the stimuli? Right, so that you really would have the Borg hive mind that they would just instantly respond to whatever direction they were given here's the injected thought to everybody at the same time. I mean, we have observed for millennia, really, the idea of there being sort of a collective consciousness, as it were, again, through this idea of ether and the vibration, and we can pick things up through that. But when you actually put it in practical application and put it physically, electronically within a person, it looks like all the worst parts of Revelation.
It really does. It really does. And see, that's the thing. They're capturing these different ideas of manifestation and turning them into the hyper-materialist form of it. See, that's the thing. So when they're taking something like an idea of the collective consciousness, which is kind of more of I don't know what you would say, an esoteric type idea.
That's the word I was going for.
A more spiritual type of idea.
Esoteric, sure. Yeah.
They're turning it into a material thing, a material idea, a hyper-materialist idea, all tied to this physical plane in which we live. And that's the thing. It's hyper-physical and it's hyper-material. And that's the viewpoint that they want. That's what they're trying to engineer society towards, because this ties right together with the whole transhumanist philosophy and all of that.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about. And, we've had discussions in the past. Well, why would these people want to do that? Or, what's the real, motivation for them to do this stuff? Well, there's all kinds of different ideas we've speculated on as to why. But the fact is, look around. I mean, this is exactly what's going on. They're trying to make it the hyper-materialist paradigm here.
Yeah. Well, again,
where everybody's wired into the matrix,
right?
Like, the physical matrix here.
And as Crow, as Crow often says, right, they cannot be God of this world, so they have to create an artificial world in which to be the actual God and controller of. And ultimately, here's was my speculation, and this is my observation I gave earlier today, which is that ultimately this all comes down to a battle, and not just a physical battle, but it really is a spiritual battle. And the goal is not really ultimately control, but really for your heart, mind, and your spirit, your soul. Really, it's you. You are the prize, not anything else. You are one of many millions, yes, but you are the ultimate prize. You are what they want. Your consent, and that's how I see it.
Oh yeah, and that's absolutely, I think, spot on. I mean, that's what it's about. It's not about money. I know they always say follow the money and this and that, but here's the thing: if these people who are doing this stuff, if that was their ultimate goal, they've already had that for decades, maybe even centuries.
Right.
They control all the money, like they control all the material wealth. So if it was truly about that, I mean, they've already got that. So it's something more than that.
Yeah, but they certainly have found over time that it's much easier to control people when the people believe they're free. When they know they're slaves, eventually they will rebel, and it creates conflict. But when they believe that they're free, you don't have those problems. Vote.
Yep, it's a prison without walls, man.
They put
Just
people.
Go ahead. Oh, by the way, put the mask on, though.
Yeah, right.
Doing that,
They put.
So it's not really a prison without walls anymore, because now you could actually see some of the symbolism of it.
Right. They put B-level actors naked on TikTok to say vote. Vote for the candidate of our choice, but vote. Oh dear. But again, I find it interesting again how hard the media pushes for that hard left position. If you look closely at the hard left position, it does seem to be very much a globalist New World Order position, and then anything other than that is considered right-wing extremist, right, Nazi or whatever. If you don't vote for the New World Order, well then you're just a Luddite. You're a knuckle-dragging idiot, right, and a bad person to boot. So that is what I think the whole point of putting Cheeto Jesus in to the White House was, to make him a proxy pinata for anything that does not represent their agenda, and to make a buffoon of him and anyone who supports, not really him, but anything other than them. And it's a false paradigm. That's, again, these are my views. You can do with those 2 cents what you like. Spend it how you want.
Right. And that's the whole thing. I mean, it's an illusion of choice when it comes down to it. But here's the thing, okay? The opposite of rugged individualism, which this country was originally allegedly founded upon. Rugged individualism. The opposite of that is collectivism. And that's where this is all going. I mean, that's why we're shifting gradually into socialism, and then socialism always shifts to communism, and communism always leads to fascism. It's never been proven otherwise in the history of the world. Every time this has been tried and done, that's been the results. Well, the ultimate form of communism in this fascist state is called collectivism. They're changing up the terminology. Collectivism. And this all leads in with the whole transhumanist singularity idea, because that's what they're looking for. This would be the ultimate collective. It would be the ultimate collectivism. And this is the opposite of how nature works. So it's an inversion of the natural order or the natural reality. It's an artificial thing.
Yep.
We're individuals. I mean, as reflections of the Spirit of God, we are individuals. And each of us is an individual representation of his character.
Yep.
Or, we're kind of a lesser, kind of a dim reflection of different aspects of him, and we're all intended to be individuals,
and yet
we're not intended to be a collective.
Yes, and yet all
even though we could work together in communities and stuff like that, that's different. But we're not intended to be a collective. And this is exactly what the technocrats are going for, is collectivism.
Yeah, this is how I often represent it with what you're seeing now, is this idea of stained glass, that each one is individual and has its own color. But all of them are simply not reflecting, but shining. The light, the source of light, is shining through it, and yet it creates a beautiful picture, a tapestry, when all put together. I think this is a great representation of humanity in the sense
that is a great analogy. I do like that very much.
Each one is individual and must be. Each one has got to be its own exact thing. And all of them have the source of light shining through it. And so they're all going to do that differently. And each of us is going to reflect the Creator in a different way. But put together, it creates this beautiful picture that couldn't exist without the individuality of each person.
Absolutely, and that's a perfect kind of analogy to use there. That's a great description. But by and large, what the technocrats seek is, what they've done with craftsmanship through the years. They're like, craftsmanship's a thing of the past. Now it's all artificially manufactured in mass quantities in a factory to the same exact standards. So there's no craftsmanship anymore for certain things. It's the same kind of idea. They want to make human beings into the same basic template. The same collective group mind, all of this stuff, because it's more easily controllable for them, first of all.
Sure.
And, second of all, there's no surprises that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Imagine
they're not going to get usurped by, anybody who's part of the collective.
Imagine the stained glass window if all of them were just little squares of gray. It's easy to replace one, and none of them have really any meaning. But ultimately, it takes the meaning. And so this is what I come up with over and over when I say what they are trying to steal from you is your individuality, your divinity, right? The spark of divinity that was given to you to be an individual representation of the Creator and to express the Creator in that individual way. They're terrified of that. And that is the power they're trying to keep from you by trying to convince you that you are meaningless and that all of it is meaningless. Right. So this is
that's why they tell you that you're, flying around, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at 66,000 miles per hour, flying through space on a rock in the middle of an infinite void.
Yep.
So that's why they tell you you're a insignificant nothing. That's why they don't want you to understand who you are and what power you actually have in this place.
Exactly. Because it's terrifying to them.
The power that your voice has speaking out. So that's what they don't want you to understand. So they want you to just stay silent, put on the mask, shut up. That's what that symbolizes. Shut up.
Yep.
Shut your mouth. Obey orders. Listen. Go along to get along, and you'll be fine. That's what they want you to believe. Don't speak out. Don't speak up.
Yep.
But the opposite is true. We are way more powerful than we believe.
Yeah, I haven't dropped you at all. Give me just a moment here, and let's see if I can.
Anybody out there? Could you hear us?
I can hear you. but I don't know if they can right
Oh,
now.
I know you can hear me, but
Okay, it shows
anybody in
that.
the chat.
Yep, we're back. Okay, I see it now.
Okay,
All right, so sorry about
I
that.
rest my case.
So there you have it. I guess that's probably as good a place as any. I see we dropped a bunch of folks to in that process. So we're back, but I think this is probably a good place to kind of bring the plane into land, which is to say again that from Psalm 34 it says, "If you want the best, worship God." Worship opens up doors to all of His goodness. Again, keeping in mind that worship is your devotion, your attention, what you spend your time and effort on. To me, there is no other better place to put it at the top than your Creator, and then everything else comes out as a result of that. It's from the overflow and abundance of a man's heart come his good works, and beyond that,
Absolutely.
beyond that, everything else. Is secondary. There's nothing wrong with information, or all this information is valuable no matter where you get it. You might have to dust it off a little bit, but ultimately, if you want to know these things for sure, I'll just say again, go ask Dad. Right? You're not going to get it from me or Wayne. We can speculate on it. We can give you our views on it. And I think we have similar views because we're dealing with the same person. And so it's going to be likely that we have similar views on these things being relational and not about religion. But ultimately, again, I would say if you want to know, go ask for yourself. That's my encouragement for everyone.
Yep.
Find out for yourself by engaging in a relationship with the Creator. And then everything else comes easy. You won't have to worry about what any content creator, what any media personality, what any politician or news organization tells you. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Indeed it will. And I'll just close out with this. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you.
Bam. I think
that's
somebody,
that's the truth.
I think somebody has said that before, and I think that's a really good one. And with that, thank you again, Wayne, for joining us, and I hope this has been helpful and beneficial to those of you who have joined us tonight. And as usual, I'll leave you with a little from the Wayback Machine, a little music from this is 1991, I think. 92. I know it now. It's called "Still" from the Wayback Machine. Wayne, again, as usual, I'll drop the call, but this time I promise I will actually call you back. I promise.
Hey man, that's okay. It's been a busy night for
I get
everybody.
distracted, so
we're all good.
I'll come back.
It happens.
It does, but I'll come back to you in just a moment. With that, again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Sorry about the little interruption at the end. It just it does happen. We're not sure why. Have a blazing fast internet speed here at Casa de Baldini. But if you get a chance, hopefully I'll see you at Flattoberfest coming up in just a couple of weeks. Thank you, Karen B., for setting that all up. I'm excited to come and make you some coffee and maybe get some noodles in and that sort of stuff. Not noodles to eat, but noodles to listen to. So this is called "Still," and hope to see you again. Keep in mind, let's see, Tuesday morning on my channel, come back here for the Cocky Pop Report. Rose is taking the week off. I can't believe the questions you ask. Are you still my friend? You should know after all that has passed, I am here to the end. And yes, it makes me feel like a fool, knowing I haven't come through for you. And no, it's not the same when you call out my name. I can't believe the things that you ask. Don't you know what it means to speak the words that you've given me, to tell of my dreams? And yes, I think that I almost home by now, but you're here in my heart. And yes, it makes me feel like a fool.